Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. So glad you tuned in today. Thanks for joining us. Our topic today is fatigue, chronic low energy, a problem that is far too common. My special guest is Dr. Stephen Gundry, best-selling author of The Plant Paradox, The Longevity Paradox, and now his new book, The Energy Paradox: What to Do When Your Get Up and Go Has Got Up and Gone. Dr. Gundry, thanks so much for being here. It's great to see you again.
Lori, great to see you and be with you again.
So I love the title of your book, and it so perfectly describes so many people who just don't have any energy anymore. And now you have talked before about how you treat so many senior citizens. You know, a lot of folks think that just being tired all the time is a part of getting older, but you say that is not true.
No, that's exactly right. Fatigue and tiredness now is an epidemic in this country. Well over 50% of people actually complain of chronic tiredness, and that includes millennials. And that's certainly not our experience in years past. I also study, as you know, many very long-lived people around the world, and it's interesting, many of these societies don't even have a word for tiredness or fatigue. So the idea that, you get to be 70, it's time to slow down. Now, I literally have patients who are 30 years old who they need 3 cups of coffee to get out of bed, think they need an energy bar at 10 o'clock in the morning to make it to lunch. And this is absolutely abnormal. And it's a part of what society and our eating habits have done to us to produce this. And the book is all about that.
Well, I love the fact that you focus on our eating habits. But, when you talk about young people in particular, and even old people, a lot of people don't even realize that they are chronically fatigued because they really don't know any other lifestyle. What are some of the symptoms of chronic low energy or fatigue?
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of us think that our modern lifestyle, the need for a double espresso several times a day to get going, is normal, and we're supposed to, want to sleep in on the weekends, and we're supposed to be so tired we have to force ourselves out of bed, force ourselves to go to work, and that's normal. And in fact, it's not. So the idea that you can't get the day started without a couple cups of coffee is abnormal. That ought to be a sign that there's an issue. The second thing is that more and more and more people are experiencing what I call brain fog. They find that their brain just doesn't work the way it used to. Tasks are harder to remember. Thinking about doing things is harder to even conceive of what you're supposed to do. And as I talk about in the book, fatigue and brain fog is actually warning signs from your body and from your brain that it's time to look under the hood because there are really bad things happening. And the good news is if we listen to these warning signs and take action, and the action steps, we'll talk about, but we can take action and stop these, because if we don't, we now know that, for instance, brain fog is usually an indication of what's called neuroinflammation. And that's a fancy way of saying that our brain cells, our neurons, are literally under attack by our own white blood cells. And if you have brain fog, it is a sign, in fact, that dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, other neurodegenerative diseases are down the road if you don't stop this now.
So when you talk about brain fog, again, a lot of people are like, I forgot, I went into a room and I forgot what I was going there for. Is that brain fog? How do we know when we're experiencing brain fog? Again, people might have it and not recognize it.
Well, that's a perfect example. Another perfect example is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. All of a sudden, kind of all systems seem to go on pause. You don't feel like working anymore. You don't feel like doing anything with the kids anymore, and you just want to lay down or reach for an energy bar, or get another pick me up, a cup of coffee. And these are actually really abnormal signs that we should be paying attention to. This is not the price of our modern lifestyle. This is what the modern lifestyle is actually doing to us, and we can take steps to stop that process.
If you think that you might have chronic low energy, chronic fatigue, brain fog, these types of things, can you go to the doctor and get tested and be officially diagnosed rather than just relying on your own perception of your own life?
As you know, I see patients 6 days a week, even on the weekends. And one of the things, particularly in women, is that doctors, sadly, in general, don't take these complaints seriously. And there's actually very good reasons for that. Most of the traditional tests that are done in a practicing physician's office aren't very good at picking up these measurements that correlate with being tired or chronic fatigue or even brain fog. And so many of my patients who have been through multiple physicians say, the doctor told me it's all in my head because all of my lab tests are normal. And the doctor is right. It's in their heads, but not in the way the doctor means. We can actually do sophisticated blood tests that anybody can get to show that, in fact, the all in your head is, in fact, all in your head. There is inflammation in your brain. Well, I'll give you an example. I have third-year family practice residents rotate through my clinic here in Palm Springs. And so this is their last year before they go into practice. And to a person, they have never heard of measuring what's called a fasting insulin level. And they don't even know what that means. They know to get a blood sugar, a blood glucose, and some of them know to get a hemoglobin A1C, which you see advertised on TV all the time. I got my A1C down. But they don't know that the underlying problem that's driving tiredness and neuroinflammation is a high insulin level.
So let's get to some of the solutions. And again, like you said, it's great that there are solutions and that many of them are dietary, doesn't really require getting a lot of expensive pharmaceutical products. And you keep talking about inflammation as the key problem. Where does inflammation come from and how do we get rid of it?
So, inflammation is actually our white blood cells, our immune system, our foot soldiers, if you will, attacking threats that actually come into our body primarily through the lining of our gut. The lining of our gut and our intestines is actually the surface area of a tennis court. And everybody look down, there's a tennis court inside your belly, surface area. And unfortunately, the lining of our gut is only one cell thick. And as I've written about extensively, things we eat, like lectins, which are proteins that plants make to actually poke holes in the lining of our gut, things we swallow, like Advil or Aleve or ibuprofen, actually blow holes in the wall of your gut. And many other things that we assume is a natural part of aging. So particles can get through the wall of our gut. And on the other side of the lining of our gut is 80% of all of our immune system, 80%. And so there's literally a battle every day going on inside of our gut. And that battle creates inflammation. Now, if we use the soldier analogy, and it's actually a really good one, if we send our soldiers off to war, they need lots of supplies. And we have to provide them with as much supplies as they need. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to protect us. Same thing with inflammation. Inflammation requires huge amounts of energy to do this battle. And so we give most of our energy, 24 hours, which we could otherwise use in our brain, in our muscles, to our white blood cells for this battle. And so we now know that chronic inflammation that's now happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is really the biggest driver for all the conditions that we assume are really part of getting older, all the pre-existing conditions that we've heard about in COVID. Things like heart disease, things like diabetes, pre-diabetes, neuroinflammation, neurodegeneration, high blood pressure. All of these, at their underlying source, come from leaky gut. Now, if you'd asked me 15 years ago what I thought about leaky gut, I would have told you it was pseudoscience. But in fact, thanks to work by Dr. Fasano from Harvard and others, including my clinic, we now know that if you have a pre-existing condition, if you have high blood pressure, you have leaky gut. If you have diabetes, you have leaky gut. If you have arthritis, you have leaky gut. If you have anxiety or depression, you have leaky gut. And if you're tired and fatigued, you got leaky gut. So we can stop leaky gut. And I've devoted the last 21 years in teaching people how to do that. So we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with Dr. Stephen Gundry to talk about how to fix a leaky gut. Once again, the book is called The Energy Paradox, What to Do When Your Get Up and Go Has Got Up and Gone. Stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug-of-war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back to Healthy Living. My special guest is Dr. Stephen Gundry, author of the book, The Energy Paradox, What to Do When Your Get Up and Go Has Got Up and Gone. And Dr. Gundry, right before the break, you were talking about how leaky gut is the problem that leads to things like chronic fatigue and low energy, as well as a lot of other health conditions. So the big question is, how do we fix a leaky gut?
Yeah, so there's several things that we can start doing today to fix a leaky gut. Number one is please try to avoid taking antibiotics for simple things like runny noses or scratchy throats. Try to avoid eating animals that have been raised with antibiotics from factory farms. It turns out antibiotics kill off most of the good bugs in our intestines that actually protect us from leaky gut. The next thing is there are certain foods that contain large amounts of lectins, these plant proteins that like to burrow through the wall of our gut. And those include whole grains. They include beans and legumes that have not been pressure cooked. If you pressure cook them, they're perfectly safe. They include the nightshade family, like tomatoes and peppers and potatoes. These, in general, are one of the major causes of leaky gut that I've written about now for 20 years. And we've found that if you have an autoimmune disease, if we take these out of you, out of your diet, about 90% of you, your autoimmune disease will resolve just by doing that. Now, the next thing that's really important, most people have heard about probiotics, the friendly bacteria, like in yogurt, for example. But there are prebiotics that feed the friendly bacteria, and these prebiotics are contained in fiber, but not all fiber is the same. So, for instance, the fiber in whole grains actually causes leaky gut, but the fiber in things like artichokes, sweet potatoes, Jerusalem artichokes, Belgian endive, radicchio, that Italian red lettuce, these things actually feed probiotics, friendly bacteria. And the exciting thing that's in this book is when these guys eat prebiotics, they make a set of compounds that are called postbiotics. And postbiotics actually seal a leaky gut. And more importantly, they actually communicate to the energy-producing organelles in all of our cells called the mitochondria to make more energy. So probiotics that you manufacture by eating prebiotics literally turbocharges your energy, and it's free, and it's in every grocery store.
Talk a little bit more about how to fix a leaky gut. You talked about avoiding antibiotics. What about some other foods and also some other prescription or over-the-counter medications?
Yeah, great question. So one of the sad things about things like ibuprofen is pharmaceutical companies have known since the 1970s that these cause holes in the gut, and they cause inflammation. And so the more you take of these, the more inflammation you will actually get, and you will take more of them to try and relieve the pain. So it's actually a vicious cycle. The other thing that's really scary is these now over-the-counter drugs for heartburn, for acid indigestion, like Nexium and Prilosec and Protonix. We now know that these actually stop the energy-producing organelles, the mitochondria, from working because they interrupt how mitochondria produce energy, which is called proton pumping. And if you read the label, it says on the label, please never take these for more than 2 weeks because they're so dangerous. It's on every label of Prilosec OTC. That's because people who chronically take these, their mitochondria, their energy sputters to a stop. And there's actually good studies now that show there's much more increased memory loss and dementia with the chronic use of these proton pump inhibitors. So they really need to stay away. Lastly, on this part, glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, is now in almost all the food we eat. It's in almost all the wine and beer we drink. It has been sprayed on almost all of our commercial crops, not GMO crops, regular crops. It's been sprayed on most of our wheat, all of our oats, all of our corn, all of our soybeans, most of our canola, and it's now in all the food we eat. In fact, if you're having a oat bar, energy bar, there's virtual guarantee it is loaded with glyphosate. In fact, some of the new plant-based meats have tested positive for lots of glyphosate. Glyphosate by itself causes leaky gut. And as I talk about in the book, it has many other downstream effects that none of us want.
All right. Well, we're going to take another quick break and be right back with Dr. Gundry to talk about how to fix a leaky gut. The book is The Energy Paradox. Stay with us.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Wednesday at 3 on the CBN News Channel.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
Welcome back to Healthy Living. My special guest is Dr. Stephen Gundry, author of the book, The Energy Paradox, What to Do When Your Get Up and Go Has Got Up and Gone. And we're talking about ways to reverse chronic fatigue, chronic low energy. And Dr. Gundry, one of the things I thought was most interesting is you talk about intermittent fasting is a great way to get your energy back. A lot of people would think, hey, I need to eat more to get more energy. And you say quite the opposite.
Yeah, that's right, Lori. In fact, a lot of the book goes into how we are actually overfed and underpowered. And all of our processed foods and all of, quite frankly, the sugary fruits that we eat now have actually stopped energy production in our body. And one of the best ways to turn this around, something I've been writing about since 2006, long before anyone else wrote about this, is the more we can compress our eating window from when we start eating first thing, the break fast, as I call it, break fast is breakfast, till the end we finish eating. The more we can compress that down to about 6 to 8 hours a day, the more energy we produce, surprisingly, and I go into why that is from a scientific background. But if I ask every one of your listeners and viewers to, tomorrow, I want you to eat breakfast at noon, 80% of people would fall flat on their faces because we don't have what's called metabolic flexibility. And that is our mitochondria, our energy cells, can't change from using sugar, which we're all addicted to using the fat that's stored in our fat cells as a fuel. And what the book does over a 6-week period is slowly take your hand, and each day we're going to change the time we start eating by 1 hour. And then we're going to take the weekend off, and then we're going to start again changing 1 hour. And by the end of 6 weeks, almost everybody will effortlessly be eating break fast at lunch. And that's how to start. And the results have been phenomenal in 21 years in my clinics doing this.
We're going to take another quick break and be right back with Dr. Stephen Gundry. The book is called The Energy Paradox. Stay tuned.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN News Watch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN News Watch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
SUPERBOOK fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new SUPERBOOK Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and SUPERBOOK episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own SUPERBOOK character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man. Come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon! It's the new SUPERBOOK Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
And welcome back. Continuing our discussion with Dr. Stephen Gundry, author of the book, The Energy Paradox. And Dr. Gundry, you were talking about ways to increase your energy, increase your mood. And one of the things is getting enough sunlight. Of course, we hear from so many dermatologists that that can be problematic because of skin cancer. Where do you come down on that?
Well, sunlight is incredibly important for producing vitamin D, and believe it or not, we are like plants. We actually produce ATP, energy, from sunlight exposure. The key is to get it timed perfectly, and as I teach my patients, I want you to eat your sunscreen. In fact, there is sad evidence that some of the chemicals in sunscreen are absorbed through our skin, like I talk about in the book, and actually prevent energy production by mitochondria. So inadvertently, by trying to protect ourselves from the sun, we've actually prevented the sun from helping us out. One of the best ways to get sunlight is early in the morning and late in the afternoon. You're not going to get the damaging rays, but those kind of red, orange colors of sunlight actually turn on the energy-producing process in your brain. The last thing, particularly talking about sunlight, we now bombarded with blue lights from our devices, from our TVs. And it's the blue light of sunlight that actually keeps us awake and makes us hungry. So the more we can eliminate blue light in our environment, the more we can wear blue blocking glasses at night, the better your energy is going to be and the better you're going to sleep.
Dr. Gundry, as always, it's been a great pleasure having you on. Can you tell our viewers where people can find out more information about you and the book?
So you can go to drgundry.com. You can come to the Dr. Gundry podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. My supplement company is gundrymd.com. And visit me on Instagram. You can find the book at Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Please support your local booksellers. They really need your help.
They do indeed. Well, once again, Dr. Gundry, it was a pleasure. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Lori. Good to talk to you again.
And thanks to you viewers for tuning in to this edition of Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson, and we'll see you again next time.